Greetings, everyone. Happy Wednesday. How are y'all doing today? I am having an interesting kind of a little mood today. I feel sleepy, and I have felt sleepy for like 2 days. And it's interesting because it's not that I haven't been getting enough rest. I have. It's pretty overcast here in Los Angeles, and the energy is, just interesting. So let's just jump right in. So today is a day that Mercury rules. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is currently in Gemini, which is the sign that it has ownership of, where it is the ruler of Gemini. And Gemini and Mercury governs our mind, how we think, how we perceive information. The sun is also in Gemini, and we might have, I'm not sure because it's actually pretty close. Mercury is at the 6th degree. They're like 2 degrees behind. So the sun and Mercury are kind of conjunct. They're within 3 degrees of one another. So what this means is that we have a lot of power in our mental world. Our minds are really powerful right now. So what does that mean in layman's terms? Whatever you say is true. Whatever you think is true. So if you think, I'm not good enough or this will never work, it won't. If you think, this is amazing, I'm going to work it out, all things work out for me, it will. This is the energy of what's happening right now, and that is it. So I really don't have that much else to say. Like, I don't feel like I don't need to overcomplicate this, and I'm a little tired. But I don't want to say I'm a little tired. My energy feels a little compromised. We'll say it that way. My energy feels a little compromised, and so the moon is in Cancer, and so the moon it just moved into Cancer. It's like at the very earliest degree. It's like still at 0. So the moon will be in Cancer for the next 2.5 days. The sun in Gemini, Mercury in Gemini, and the sun in Gemini and Mercury in Gemini, which means that our feelings and our mind, so what you feel, it's a very interesting thing because the mind and the feelings really are one in one. You know, we think something and then a feeling comes behind it, or you feel something and then a thought runs behind it. But you want to be very specific about this. Like if you have a feeling that doesn't feel like a good feeling, just say, oh, that's an interesting feeling. Don't be in your mind going, oh, that doesn't feel good, because you will compound it. If you guys look at my video that I did when I talked about going to Mexico with my girlfriend, and how she would look at the map, the Google Maps, and she would look at the Google map and she would say, we're not getting any closer. And inevitably, the traffic would back up. Inevitably, the thing that she spoke would come into an experience. So she could have easily just said, oh, the traffic is moving. We're getting closer. Every moment we're getting there, as a game to play. And then that would have been the experience. And I'm not saying this as a complaint. I'm saying this as an understanding of how this reality is working. And as more light is coming in, we must be mindful. Now, here's the thing. If you are still carrying trauma, which most of us are, so this is not to feel bad about. This is just to know what you're working with. It's like coming into an environment and knowing, okay, I have an assignment. What do I actually have to do? So if you're dealing with trauma around your family, around your gender, around disappointments, perceived failures, if that will inform your feelings. Stored, unfulfilled needs gone unmet will be a thought process in your mind. You cannot override things that didn't get worked out. You have to do the work to heal them and repair them. Now, let me say, I have done a lot. I've been doing this work for years, and you guys have heard me tell my story. Growing up with a mother who was a prostitute and a father that was a pimp, and in Watts during the crack thing, during the gang, right? So I for many years, I was just trying to escape. And so I was positive thinking and doing all the things that are required. And I'm not saying that I should have done it different. I did what I knew, but I couldn't positive think myself out of the neglect of being traumatized by my experience with my mother. I couldn't positive talk myself out of that shit. I couldn't positive talk myself out of growing up in the crack era. I couldn't positive talk myself out of that. I had to go and do the work in my body. I had to go do the work in my nervous system. I had to go do the work to transform and alchemize those patterns of neglect, patterns of abandonment, patterns of not feeling fulfilled. That stuff cannot be thought out of and talked out of. But it is important for you to still learn how to train your mind and train your body. But you will need to take responsibility for the shadows. The shadows are unfulfillment, failure, fear, that shadow stuff. Like, once I realized that I had a shadow that wouldn't allow me to get past, I had a shadow that wouldn't allow me to get past the scarcity that I grew up in. Like, I grew up in an environment where there was a karmic family pattern around scarcity and not having enough, not being enough. I couldn't talk myself out of that. I couldn't talk myself out of that. I had to do the work on that. And that is the thing. And that work looked like playing. That work looked like asking for help. That work looked like forgiving myself. That work looked like allowing myself to feel the feelings of what the abandonment of what my perceived abandonment from my mother felt like. I had to feel that. And that felt hard. That felt painful. That felt not so pleasant, right? But how did I do that? I mean, there are ways to work through that stuff. So if you want to do that work, you can come and you can work with me. I work with coaching clients, and I have so many resources and so many tools that help us align our nervous systems. I have moon cycles, astrology, all these tools that help us get where we're meant to be inside of ourselves, to align your mind and your body so that they are going, so that your emotions and your intellect and your spirit are in harmony with one another. And that work has to be done. But it is important for you to be mindful of your mind. And here's the thing, just because I couldn't talk myself out of my trauma doesn't mean that somebody else can't talk themselves out of their trauma. I just couldn't do it. I didn't do it, but that doesn't mean it's not possible, because everyone is different and everyone is designed differently. So even though I couldn't talk myself out of the trauma that I was carrying, I can talk myself into a new reality now that I've healed that trauma. Or now that I have tools that allow me to manage the healing and the integration of the trauma, because it is a process. It's not all or nothing. So I really want to do my best to be accurate with how this process works for me, so that people don't, because I spent a lot of time just trying to get away from pain. I spent a lot of time just being like, oh, my mother wasn't this, so I don't want to feel that anymore. And that didn't work for me. That didn't work. I had to sit down and feel it. And I'm grateful that I did. So the moon in Cancer, that's family. So now the stuff that's going with your family, the stories about your family, the stories about your mother, the stories are the energies that are held in the body. So you want to begin to, if those stories are negative, you want to reframe them. And if it's a negative story, you want to ask, what did I learn from that? What was the lesson in that for me? Because the lesson will, once you get the lesson of anything, it will make it a positive experience for you. You got what you needed to get. So if you guys need support, you can check out my website at healwithmoonmama.com. I would love to support you. You guys know that. Daughters of the 13 Moons right now is closed for another 3 weeks. We will open that portal up again for those who are really ready to dive deep into their own transformation and accessing your magic and your power and your gifts, your intuition, all of your spiritual psychic gifts that are coming alive right now. As you do the work, one of the things that I learned, as I did the work to heal the trauma, when I healed the trauma, that energy got transformed into greater intuition, a greater ability to speak my existence into being, a greater ability to see clearly things that I couldn't see clearly before, a greater ability to use my intellect in a way that works for me. But that came after healing, transmuting, integrating the trauma. Okay, peace and blessings. Love you guys. Bye-bye.